How you doing today, folks? Now today, I have a video for you. It's a long time coming. Now I've had this knife for a long time. I've had it with the standard stock scales for about 1.5 years. I've had it with the modified ones for a couple more years. This knife has been put through hell over quite a long period of time, and honestly, I got some shit to say about it. First off, the Benchmade Griptilian is an EDC staple. It is a classic. It is honestly a knife that's very much iconic for our industry. There are tons of knives that are iconic, to be very clear. The Griptilian is not in a category of its own, but it definitely is in that category. But anyways, folks, let's get started. Now this knife came out way back in 2001, and I've had this knife in one iteration or another since about 2003. And honestly, I've used, abused, cut, pried, hammered, and did all sorts of things with this knife as well as other knives just like it. And honestly, the Griptilian is, for better or worse, an absolute workhorse, and for that alone, I love it. The action on the Benchmade Griptilian is either achieved through these thumb lugs or through a sheep's foot opening hole. For this thumb stud version, you can flick it, spidey flick it. The action, to be honest, is not the greatest. The slow roll does feel very good, but the actual flicking action is just kind of okay. On top of that, you can get it to drop, but it's a slow process. You can whip it closed, which definitely does work. I have mine because I like to have a secure blade. So there's no actual blade play on it, but it does not drop shut, and it's very much off center, which is kind of a problem. At the time, the Axis lock was an absolute innovation, but honestly, at this point in time, the Axis lock patent has expired, and since that patent has expired, other companies have tried their hand at the old Axis lock, and they've honestly found better ways to go about doing it. The Axis lock is by no means bad, but it's no longer game-changing the way it once was. Therefore, the action is good, though not great compared to what it used to be. But again, the Axis lock is an old lock, and it's a good lock. But again, it's not quite great anymore. The edge geometry on a Benchmade Griptilian is actually really good. Even after years of use, hard use, this knife actually holds up very, very well. And honestly, it still performs fantastically against knives that are much higher in the actual price bracket. This thing's not quite a laser beam, but it's definitely a dream. It glides through paper, it glides through cardboard, and again, is just a genuine workhorse of a knife in a way that I find really and genuinely beautiful. I love using the Griptilian. Look at this thing. Beautiful. Now, first things first, ergonomics are very much subjective. This is my experience using my size 2XL hands. If you do have bigger hands or smaller hands, your experience will more than likely differ considerably. However, for me, the stock scales on the Benchmade Griptilian were honestly horrible. They were hot spots all over the place. The texturing to me was kind of a nightmare. So I did get these aftermarket micarta ones, which honestly made the ergonomics of this knife much, much better. Even still, this is very much a 3-finger knife for me. I cannot hold the actual handle. I do have to use this kind of swoop, which is not meant to be a choil, but I definitely do use it as such. And using this method, it's actually very comfortable in hand. Not the best in hand ever, definitely does feel very good in hand. For some reason, in my opinion, the ergonomics on the sheepdog variant are a little bit better, but I do prefer this thumb stud, just me personally. But overall, the ergonomics are not bad, but also not good. They're pretty middle of the road for somebody with my size of hands, though if you do have smaller hands, it could be a whole lot better. But even still, they feel pretty damn good. Now, much like ergonomics, the aesthetics of this knife are very much subjective. To me, the base Griptilian looks like a tactical Lego, and to me, just not really my personal style. But there are tons of aftermarket fit finishes you can offer, and for the most part, you can make your perfect Griptilian. But again, just the actual basic plasticky scales, not really my thing at all. I like Legos, but not so much the tactical variety on my knives. I did give away the base safety orange scales to my friend Jade Schaefer. Now I have these micarta ones. I've also had carbon fiber ones, some other ones as well. One thing I have to say about the overall looks of the Griptilian are there are so many options to customize it, and that is honestly beautiful. But again, by itself, the stock version, in my opinion, kind of Lego-ish. The Benchmade Griptilian is very much EDC sized, weight and carry ratioed for a pretty much perfect style. It fits perfectly with almost all the other EDC sized offerings out there. Despite its relatively small size, it does fit the hand very nicely overall. And as soon as you have it in hand, you understand why it's so popular and why it's a classic. Because the size, weight, and carry ratio of the Benchmade Griptilian is pretty much perfect for what you would want on an everyday basis, and honestly, you could really tell they took their time designing this knife, and it genuinely shows. The Griptilian is available in a whole bunch of different steels. S30V is good. 20CV is a little better, but the overall style of the Griptilian I really feel like lends itself to a working knife, and 154 cm steel is very much a working steel. For anybody who's ever had to sharpen 20 CV, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you have the systems and the diamond stones, not an issue. If you don't, it's kind of a nightmare. But for what I like to use my knives for, 154 cm is perfect. Again, ergonomics, not quite ideal. Edge geometry, absolutely fantastic. The axis lock was iconic at a time. The current S30V lineup, as well as 20 CV, doesn't really appeal to me, but might appeal to you. And overall, there's plenty of different options to customize, fit, and finish different ideas for the Benchmade Griptilian, and that alone is fantastic. Now, normally in these reviews, I don't talk about warranty because I have a bad habit of completely voiding the warranty on all of my knives for one reason or another. However, Benchmade, even in this modified state, will still take this knife in for warranty work. They have multiple times. I have replaced clips multiple times. I've replaced the blade once as I snapped it. I've never had to replace a spring, though I did manage to actually break the access lock once. That was an interesting conversation. Don't use your knife as a hammer, folks. I've also lost multiple screws. So folks have a lot to say about Benchmade's customer service as well as their QC. And honestly, I agree with the QC issues, but the customer service has always been fantastic. As always, I'm going to give this knife two separate scores, an individualized personal score and a generalized score as far as the actual blade itself and how I think it will perform in your general EDC tasks. My overall score of the Benchmade full-size Griptilian is going to be a solid 8 out of 10. This knife is very much not perfect. It's actually gotten quite a bit worse with age. The access lock is a bit outdated, but overall this knife is still fantastic and has held up very well. I love the balance point on this knife. I do this way the hell too much, which leads to an overall long-term review score of an 8 out of 10. I actually really do enjoy this knife. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty damn close, and again, this knife can take a beating. As far as an average overall EDC score, this is going to be the first time these scores have ever matched, but I still believe this knife is a solid 8 out of 10 for a general EDC. It is a fantastic baseline to be able to modify your knife. It is a fantastic overall worker. It feels good in hand, good edge geometry. Honestly, everything about this knife is good. Not great, but very much good, and that is great. Now, as always, folks, I love you all with all of my heart. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Times are crazy right now, so please do the best you can to be safe out there. Also, I know times are crazy and it's so easy to get up in arms to everybody else, but I encourage folks to love their neighbors. At the end of the day, if something has to happen, do what you gotta do, but don't let hate fill your heart. Find ways to love each other, be it politics, life choices, or just overall drama as a whole. Again, be the difference you want to see in others. Lead by example. As always, folks, I love you all with all of my heart. Please take care. Have a great day, and bye-bye.